In a rare and significant moment of unity, the Supreme Court delivered a unanimous decision on the complex intersection of gun rights and public safety, drawing national attention. The justices upheld a federal law that allows courts to temporarily disarm individuals who are under domestic violence, restraining orders, recognizing the urgent need to protect those at risk. This landmark ruling affirms that the right to bear arms does not extend to those who pose a credible threat to others, especially in situations involving domestic violence or intimidation. The decision sends a clear and resounding message: protecting the vulnerable is not just a moral duty, but a constitutional imperative that the nation must uphold. The Second Amendment, while foundational to American identity, is not absolute. It must coexist with the government's responsibility to prevent harm and ensure public safety for all citizens. The court's rare 9-0 vote is a powerful statement in a deeply divided era, showing that some issues transcend political lines. It reframes the national gun debate, emphasizing that public safety and the protection of innocent lives must always transcend partisanship and political agendas. The ruling in United States v. Rahimi clarifies that gun rights are not unlimited and must be balanced by the urgent need to protect citizens from demonstrable and immediate danger. This is a pivotal development, ensuring that the Constitution remains responsive and adaptable to the modern challenges facing American society today. The decision firmly rejects the idea that only laws with exact historical precedents are valid, opening the door for reasonable, evidence-based measures. Instead, it affirms that reasonable and proactive steps can and should be taken to prevent tragedy when someone is found to be a clear and present danger to others. The Supreme Court's stance marks a turning point in the ongoing conversation about guns and safety in America, setting a precedent for future generations. At the heart of this case is Zaki Rahimi, a man whose actions would soon ignite a national debate about the boundaries of constitutional rights and public safety. Rahimi, a Texas resident, became the center of attention after a series of violent incidents that would ultimately trigger a far-reaching legal battle. In 2019, Rahimi assaulted his girlfriend and, in a separate incident, fired a gun at a bystander. These acts led to a domestic violence restraining order, which specifically barred him from possessing firearms under federal law, a measure designed to protect victims from further harm. Despite this court order, Rahimi was later involved in multiple additional shootings and was repeatedly found in possession of firearms, directly violating the federal prohibition. He was indicted on these charges, but rather than contesting the facts of his case, Rahimi's legal team took a different approach. They challenged the constitutionality of the law itself, arguing that it infringed on his Second Amendment rights. Their argument leaned heavily on a recent Supreme Court decision, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin, which established that gun regulations must be consistent with the nation's historical traditions. Rahimi's defense asserted that historically, there were no laws that specifically disarmed individuals accused of domestic violence, and therefore, the modern statute was unconstitutional. This bold legal claim transformed what might have been a straightforward criminal case into a pivotal national test of the government's authority to protect citizens from armed threats, especially in the context of domestic violence. The case quickly evolved into a referendum on whether contemporary safety laws must have direct historical analogs, or if new threats require new solutions. Legal scholars, advocates, and policymakers watched with intense interest, fully aware that the outcome could fundamentally reshape the landscape of gun regulation across the United States. The stakes were enormous. A ruling in Rahimi's favor could have dismantled critical protections for countless victims of domestic violence, leaving them more vulnerable to future harm. The Supreme Court was now tasked with answering a profound question: does the Constitution truly prevent the government from acting decisively against proven threats to public safety? The case brought into sharp focus the ongoing tension between safeguarding individual rights and ensuring collective security for all Americans. It forced the nation to confront the real-world limits of the Second Amendment, especially when weighed against the urgent need to prevent violence and protect lives. Ultimately, the outcome would set a powerful precedent, determining just how far the law can go to keep firearms out of the hands of those deemed truly dangerous. United States v. Rahimi's legal journey was marked by dramatic turns, capturing the attention of legal experts and the public alike as it wound its way through the courts. Initially, a Texas district court upheld the federal law restricting gun ownership for those under domestic violence restraining orders. However, after the Supreme Court's landmark Bruin decision, which redefined how courts interpret the Second Amendment, the Fifth Circuit reversed course. The appeals court declared the federal law unconstitutional, arguing that there was no clear historical precedent for disarming individuals accused of domestic abuse, and that the law did not fit within the nation's tradition of firearm regulation. This controversial decision sparked widespread concern, creating what many saw as a public safety crisis. It threatened to strip crucial protections from domestic violence victims across several states, leaving them more vulnerable. The Department of Justice quickly appealed, insisting that both history and common sense support disarming those deemed dangerous to others, especially in cases involving domestic violence. Recognizing the national significance and far-reaching implications, the Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, signaling its willingness to address the complex intersection of gun rights and public safety. During oral arguments, justices pressed both sides, questioning whether a rigid historical test for gun laws made sense in a modern society facing new threats and challenges. The court appeared ready to clarify its own precedent, potentially reshaping how lower courts interpret the Second Amendment and reaffirming the government's authority to protect its citizens from harm. The stakes were enormous. A ruling against the law could have invalidated similar statutes nationwide, affecting countless families and communities concerned about gun violence. The case quickly became a defining moment for the future of gun regulation in America, drawing intense debate and media coverage from coast to coast. Ultimately, the Supreme Court's decision would determine whether public safety concerns could take precedence over an absolutist reading of the Second Amendment, setting a precedent for generations to come. On January 2, 2026, the Supreme Court issued its unanimous verdict. Chief Justice Roberts wrote that the Second Amendment has always allowed for limits when someone poses a threat. The court clarified that modern laws don't need exact historical twins, just consistency with the Constitution's principles. Historical laws aim to disarm dangerous individuals, even if they didn't mention domestic violence by name. The ruling was narrow, applying specifically to those found by a court to be a credible threat. It restored the federal law's full power, ensuring judges can continue to protect abuse victims. The decision signals to lower courts that public safety and constitutional rights can be balanced. It sets a new framework for evaluating gun laws in the modern era. This ruling is a major victory for domestic violence victims. Research shows that access to firearms dramatically increases the risk of homicide in abusive relationships. The law upheld by the court is a life-saving tool, allowing judges to restrict gun access for those proven dangerous. Without it, victims would be left unprotected from armed abusers. The decision ensures restraining orders remain meaningful, not just symbolic. Survivors now have a crucial window of safety to rebuild their lives. The court's message is clear. Gun rights do not include the right to terrorize family members. Rights come with responsibilities, and this ruling affirms that principle. The decision validates the experiences of survivors and strengthens legal protections for the vulnerable. The Rahimi ruling introduces the dangerousness standard into Second Amendment law. The court affirmed that the government can disarm individuals proven to be dangerous with due process. This principle could support other gun safety laws like red flag laws that temporarily remove firearms from those posing a threat. The focus shifts from banning weapons to targeting dangerous behavior. The ruling draws a line between responsible gun owners and those who have shown they can't be trusted. Due process remains key. Only a court can make the dangerousness finding. This approach may offer common ground in the polarized gun debate. Still, questions remain about how far the standard can go and what evidence is required. Future cases will test the boundaries of who can be disarmed and for how long. The decision opens a new chapter in defining the limits of gun rights and public safety. Legal experts across the spectrum see the ruling as a major clarification. Scholars note the court rejected a rigid historical approach, favoring a flexible, principle-based method. The decision is praised for focusing on individual behavior and due process, not broad bans. Gun safety advocates see a roadmap for defending other regulations, like red flag laws. Conservative commentators appreciate the ruling's narrow scope, preventing government overreach. The consensus: the Rahimi decision restores common sense to the Second Amendment debate. It rebalances rights and responsibilities, ensuring the Constitution protects both freedom and safety. The Rahimi ruling clarifies one issue, but leaves many gun law questions unresolved. The Supreme Court avoided broader topics like assault weapon bans and high-capacity magazine restrictions. These issues remain in legal limbo, with future cases likely to reach the court. The decision's flexible approach may give states more leeway to defend gun regulations. However, it also emphasizes targeting dangerous individuals over banning specific weapons. The legal landscape remains a patchwork, with ongoing debates over background checks and safe storage. Rahimi provides a solid anchor, but uncertainty persists. The Second Amendment debate will continue to shape American law and society. The Supreme Court's unanimous ruling in United States v. Rahimi is a rare moment of consensus. It affirms that constitutional rights must be balanced with the responsibility to protect others. The decision empowers lawmakers to keep guns from those proven dangerous, but doesn't end the debate. Citizens must stay engaged, understand their state's laws, and demand thoughtful action from leaders. The ruling is a foundation, not a finish line, for a more rational gun conversation. Protecting both rights and safety requires active participation from everyone. The story of guns in America is one of freedom and responsibility. The Supreme Court has written a pivotal new chapter. We can respect the Second Amendment and protect the vulnerable. The challenge now is to build on this moment of clarity. The conversation continues, and your voice matters. Together, we can forge a future that is both safer and more free.